G'day, Tragic here. And just before I start, Chaos of the Old World. What's going on with this, you might ask? If you're wondering what's going on with Chaos of the Old World, don't worry, I haven't forgotten this playthrough. If you click on the link in the description of this video, it'll jump to an explanation of what's going on here. Something happened, long story short, I lost all the files, I need to replay it. But yeah, let's get on with the actual reason for this video, which is going to be a little filler. Call of Cthulhu. Now this is a game that I have been asked quite a lot to cover, and it is one of my favorites. This has everything. This has got everything a card game needs. It is difficult. It is extremely skill dependent. It has the most amazing card synergies. Like, no card is in a vacuum. Every card bounces off all the other cards. The way they interact makes, you know, huge big bomb cards that you think as a new player are absolutely unplayable against. You just can't do anything once Cthulhu hits the table. Shub Niggurath is on the table. What am I supposed to do? Well, you realize that there are synergies between the cards, like really innocuous cards you don't think are that good, that actually end up being more powerful than these huge bombs. And that's what Call of Cthulhu really has over almost every other game. And that is, this game has deep, I mean, not deep isn't deep enough a word. I mean, it has abyssal levels of deck building, right? Just amazing, amazing deck building in this game. You build a deck, you get it to run, it's just such a good feeling. And yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite games. I really don't think much comes close in card games for just amazing synergy. But there are problems with this game, and especially for new players, and I'll just quickly go into that. Now, remember, the bottom of the description always has links to jump around the video. But the problem with this game for a lot of new players is, one, it was made in 2008, okay? So it's old. I mean, I don't know how many cards there are. I think there's like maybe 5,000 cards, and growing all the time. And what this means is, if I'm a new player, I sit down, yeah, I bought Call of Cthulhu, I'm going to make a deck. I load up a deck editor, I start fiddling around making my deck, and what if I want to make a Cthulhu deck, I might have to read 1,000 cards, you know, just to learn Cthulhu. And that's if I don't fall asleep or forget what the hell I was reading when I first started, and your attention wanders, and it's very hard for deck builders to get started because the card pool is so huge, because it's an LCG, remember, not like Magic the Gathering, nothing gets cycled out. What's in the core set is still valid. Nothing gets, you know, discarded. Oh wait, that's no longer legal. So the card pool is very large, so it's very difficult for new players to get into it. And the problem is, even if they do read like 1,000 cards and work out a Cthulhu deck, and often people make Cthulhu decks first because Cthulhu is one of the factions that can work quite well mono. Most factions you need two colors. So if you're making a dual color deck, you have to read 2,000 cards, and then you've got to know the cards well enough to recognize the connections between them for the synergy. So it's got a pretty hard starting off point. And what makes it even worse is that Cthulhu is, so much of it's in the deck building. Piloting skill and deck building is what this game is about. I mean, obviously it's a card game, it's got luck, but a good player will almost always beat a bad player. A good deck will always beat a bad deck, you know, I mean, almost always. It's so intense like that. I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's brilliant. It's such a brilliant game. But one of the problems for new players is that when you lose in Cthulhu, I mean, you lose. You know, like a really good Cthulhu deck, because it all fires, it's all synergizing, it just starts doing its thing, and boom, you just absolutely crush the opposition. And that can be really demoralizing for new players, especially when they're at a disadvantage, because they can't make decks to answer these things. Because that's what this game is all about. It's all about building responses into your deck to deal with what the other person's deck is doing, and then do what you want to do. And it's quite complicated, and it takes a deep knowledge of the game to pull these decks off. So yeah, it's a bit hard for people to jump in. But it's even more than that. I mean, not just the size of the card pool and the complexity of the deck building. It's also the actual way the cards are structured, you know? Like, basically, this game's been going for a long time, and there's 9 factions, including neutral. And in each AP, which is kind of like, you know, a booster pack, you know, Lord of the Rings booster pack or Netrunner booster pack, in each AP, they call them Asylum pack, you get maybe two, maybe 3 cards in your faction colors, the faction that you're after. because they've got to fit like 9 factions in those packs, you know, and they're only 20 cards. So what that means is that if you build a deck online, you go, hey, I build a deck online, it's an LCG, doesn't matter, I'll just go and buy the packs I need to build the deck in real life. Great in theory, but in practice, when you go and you look and you think, okay, what packs did I use? You realize that you have to buy like 20 packs to make that deck, you know, because only a few cards are in each pack, so you need to buy so many to actually build the deck. And that can be really frustrating for new players because the initial outlay of the game is expensive, you know. And this is, I mean, it's all relative. I mean, you can just buy the core set and just go at it with your mate. But, you know, if you really want to get into deck building and playing people who are outside your circle, these are problems that new players run into. So, another problem is the way, because this is so old, this is the first LCG ever made, when it was originally launched, the LCG retained a lot of the bad habits from the old TCG area. And what I mean by that is that they still had commons, uncommons, and rares. Okay? So, I mean, people complain about the Netrunner pack, but us old school LCGers, you know, like Game of Thrones, Warhammer Invasion, and Cthulhu go, you've got it good. Because we had to buy 3 copies of core, and you still do. If you want to have 3 of every card, you need 3 copies of the core set, okay? So that's pretty harsh. So a lot of people don't like that, you know, but that's the facts. And then it's even worse. If you wanted to, the first 3 packs that came out, so the entire 6-part Beneath the Surface pack series, AP series, and the entire Dreamland series, you need to buy 3 of every one of the packs as well. It wasn't like the 60 card packs you have nowadays with like 3 of every card. It had rares, commons, and uncommons, and you had to buy 3 of every pack to get a full set. And then the big box one like this one called Arkham Asylum, you need to buy 2 of them, right? It was terrible. So a lot of really cool cards are quite rare, have actual rarities, especially the Dreamlands cards, which have some incredibly powerful cards, because they've never been reprinted. Well, there's rumors that they're going to get reprinted this year. Like, it's in the upcoming list now, finally. I mean, it's only been from like 2009. But they've never been reprinted, ever. So, you know, people go, oh, I want to make a deck. Oh, it's a Dreamland card, I'll go buy it. Oh wait, I can't buy it. And then if I do want to use that card, I have to buy the back three times. So, it has a number of things that are making it quite hard for new players to get into this game. Now, FFG realized this, and they completely abandoned the AP idea, and they've started releasing only card boxes in these large expandable formats. Okay, and these are faction boxes. So this is mainly focused on Miskatonic, mainly focusing on Yog. So you buy this and suddenly you've got 120 Yog cards, 120 Miskatonic cards, boom. And that gives you a lot of freedom to start deck building and start playing without having to search through the entire library. It also reduces the size of the library that you have to learn to start making connections. It's a really good idea by FFG. And what they're releasing a multi-faction box next, and then I think we're probably going to get another human faction, probably Syndicate or the Agency. But the point is, what we're going to do for this video, which is going to be kind of a new series, is do a deck tech, and this is the deck we're going to build, and we're only going to use 2 copies of core, which is what I recommend new players buy, 2 copies of core, Seekers of Knowledge, and Key to the Gate. That's all you need to make this deck, and it's a pretty good deck. I mean, it's not competitive, but this is a deck that functions, it's got synergy, it demonstrates a number of the key elements of the game, and it's a fun deck to play. I mean, I play this deck myself quite a lot. Well, I played a version of this deck. We tweaked it a little bit before we made this video, so I haven't actually played this exact deck, but I've played versions of this deck for a couple of weeks, and it's a fun deck. And this is all you need. Boom. Get started. So let's jump into it and see how it goes. Okay, so here's the deck, and I've just organized it by characters, and then by supports, and then by events, and put it into faction order. Okay, now let's just go through. We're going to go through these guys in a little bit of an out of order, but it doesn't matter. We're going to start with this very innocuous looking card, Alternative Historian. Now, I'm not going to go into the rules of how to play this. If you want me to do a how to play video, I will. This is more for people who are into it already. But anyway, Alternative Historian. This is a card that people don't really pay a lot of attention to when they first see the game. It looks incredibly, it's a 1 cost, it's got no icons, and it's 2 skill. What? But actually, it's a beast. And by everyone, I mean, even I thought this card was a bit iffy when I first saw it, but it's actually probably on its way to being restricted, which that's like, restricted just means it's a mega powerful card. So let's have a look at what it does. First, it's got a force response. After you play Alternative Historian, boom, draw another card. So it replaces itself straight off the bat. Wow, that's awesome. Then it's got discard from your hand to choose an icon struggle at a story. That struggle does not resolve. I mean, that is amazing. Basically, this is the ultimate story controller. As long as you've got cards to discard, and we'll get to how the deck is built to fuel that, but this will allow you to survive your struggles. This will allow you to go up against really powerful cards, like big hulking monsters with little puny librarians, and just go, oh well, the terror struggle's gone. Combat struggle, who cares? Control those stories, win those tokens. Very powerful card. And what have we got next? Then we have 2 copies of Andrew Chapman. She comes from Seekers, by the way. He comes from Key in the Gate. Now, he's got some interesting stuff going on with him. First, he's a 3 cost with a 4 skill. Nice. He's got 3 icons, two of which are investigation icons, and a skull. So he's pretty powerful already. Okay, just as a body on the table, he's got all the goods you need. But he's also got this amazing ability. Check this out. Disrupt. When an opponent's effect would destroy or make you sacrifice a character you control, instead discard a card from your hand, then place a success token on Chapman. Now what the success token means is that it's got this little thing called Fated. When you get 3 success tokens on him, he gets put on the bottom of your draw deck. Okay? So it's just got a limit to how many that quite powerful effect can happen. But 3 times he can save the life of your character, stop them from being sacrificed, stop them from dying, So any effect, that includes a skull struggle, you can just save their life. Extremely powerful card and quite vital to keeping things alive, like Alternative Historian. You want to keep her alive so you can cancel the struggles. But then again, oh wait, you're thinking, well, how's she going to die in a struggle if she, you could just discard a card to cancel the combat? Well, she could be targeted by other effects that destroy things, like a direct damage of some sort. This will save them from that as well. And it doesn't just work on her, it works on everyone. Very strong card. Okay, so next we have Anthropology Advisor, and this guy's from Core, and he is going strong. Card from 2008, and he's still a beast. He's a 3/3, so that's 3 cost, 3 skill. He's got 3 icons, Skull, Arcane, and Investigation, but check out his ability. Lower the cost to play Investigator characters by 1. So this guy is acceleration. He accelerates your ability to put things on the table. This isn't quite a rush deck, but it's got some of the characteristics that you find in rush decks. And one of them is this guy. But he's got more than that. Check out his next bit. Investigator characters you control gain investigation icon. Note that he's an investigator himself, which means he's actually got 4 icons. Okay, a bit tricky. He's actually got 2 investigation icons because he is also an investigator. So what this guy does is that he lowers the cost for us to play investigators, and we get to play them faster. Okay, so there's basically 3 different types in this deck. We have Faculty. Note that she's an investigator. Doesn't matter that she's an investigator because she only costs 1, but boom, she's suddenly got a investigation icon because of this card. And you can already start to see the cards starting to mesh together into this synergy. This guy can protect this guy. He can protect this girl. And he is a scientist, and we'll see more scientist cards in the future. So, Mana Acceleration, powerful, awesome. Okay, and now we have another one from Seekers of Knowledge. This guy is an explorer, and he's a scientist, and he's a nice, cheap 2-drop with an Arcane and an Investigation. That's very cool. Now he's got a fancy ability, but it's not really going to trigger in this deck, okay? What I mean by that is if you only have Miskatonic cards, if you only control Miskatonic cards on the table, he gets extra icons and stuff. But that's not really going to happen because we're running a splash of Yog, okay? So like we've got Yog cards in here. So his text ability is not really going to trigger, but that's not why he's in. He's in to take up a nice cheap 2-drop that's got an investigation and an arcane icon, and he's a scientist, so he's going to receive our scientist bonuses that you'll see in a set. So interesting card, but doesn't do a lot for us besides being another awesome body. And now we have the ever so awesome core set card, Laboratory Assistant. Hugely underrated. I mean, hugely underrated card. She is a beast. 1 cost. She's got an investigation icon, which means if you are playing right, if your opponent hasn't got enough cards in his defense, if you go second, you kind of usually want to go second. Boom! 3 icons on a story for the cost of 1 domain resource. Right off the bat, turn 1. Powerful. You know, people forget how good the cheap cards are. I mean, that's what she really is. A turn 1, 3-story success ledger. Okay, and now we have Lucas Tedlow, who is the first, well, actually the second, I guess, of our protection card. Now, for starters, he's a 2 cost, and all our cards are quite cheap. You can get away with very cheap domains in this game. I mean, we're talking maybe a 3-2-1 setup. So try and keep your domain with, have a 1 cost Miskatonic domain, and then a 3 domain, and then a 2 domain. But anyway, check this out. Lucas Tedlow. A 2 cost, 2 skill, skull and an arcane. He's got invulnerability. Okay, so he can't be killed by direct damage. Okay? Awesome. Means he's hard to get rid of. You put him on the table and he's hard to get rid of. But he's got this excellent disrupt ability. Check it out. When a player would play a non-location support card, that could be so many things. Attachments, it could be lost civilizations, which are quite popular at the moment. It could be anything, any kind of card that is a support card. Remember, there's only 3 types of cards: characters, events, and supports. So as long as it hasn't got the subtype location, you can then steal that card and you can put it into play under your control. That's amazing. I mean, that's really, really strong. A lot of people rely on these support cards to make their deck start to run a little bit smoother, to get the combos happening, to get the synergy to start to mesh. This can completely screw that up. Absolutely just wreck it. Okay? So, very, very strong card and a great protection card and very hard to get rid of because of invulnerable. Well worth your time. Okay, and now we have an interesting card. This is good old Natural Philosopher. Now, Natural Philosopher has quite a powerful effect. It is force response. After Natural Philosopher enters play, draw a card, then each player discards a card from his hand. So, you're doing hand destruction on one side, plus you're doing filtering on your side. Draw a card, get rid of a crap card. Not the perfect card, not the perfect effect, but a very, very strong effect. I mean, hand destruction for him is awesome. In this game, unlike a lot of card games, dead cards aren't dead in inverted commas because you can then resource them. Because the way Cthulhu works is if you place a card in a domain and it becomes a point of resource. So there's no real dead cards. So card cycling isn't as powerful in this game as it is in others, but it's still card cycling, right? So it's still pretty damn good. And of course, I mean, we're going to see more of this later, but part of that card cycling is going to allow us to get cards that we want to get into our discard pile quicker. So we can get cards, we have a number of cards. Once we get to the Yog cards, which you'll see in a sec, we'll be able to force those cards into our discard pile fast using this cycling system without having to rely on our opponent to destroy them. Now, of course, we can use Alternative Historian and Chadman to do the same thing. So we have many ways to getting things into our discard pile. So that's another really cool use of this guy. He is one of our 3 drops, okay? So he's a bit of a late game card, so you probably recycle him at the first. And he's an investigator, so he'll also get the plus investigation symbol, okay? Because, you know, the other guy buffs him. So he's actually got 2 investigation icons, an arcane icon, 3 skill for 3 cost. Awesome. That's pretty damn good. Now, you might notice these 2 little sort of icons in the very top corner. What are you doing, Kat? She's breaking something. In the little top corner here. that means he's got a function called steadfast. All that means is, out of all the domains you control, you need to control 2 Miskatonic. It just means that you need to understand what you're resourcing. You can't just resource all Yog cards. You still need 2 Miskatonics. You will not have a problem with steadfast with this deck. There's not many of them, and he's easy to get a grip. So, card cycling plus extra investigation. That's wow, awesome. Now we have another really cool card. This card is from Core and is a little bit tricky to use, but we wanted to put this guy in because it demonstrates some pretty cool things. One, it's a 3 cost, it's an investigator, so it has 3 investigation icons and a skull. Okay, that's pretty awesome. So just to reinforce what I was saying, our Anthropology Advisor, investigator characters gain an investigation icon. That's where all this doubling of investigators coming from. So, I mean, a 3 cost, 4 icon, that's powerful. And check out his effect. Action, pay 1 to return visiting author to your hand if it entered your discard pile this phase. So, you can cycle this guy. It doesn't matter, you know, we've got protection to stop guys dying, but if this guy dies, you can just pull him out of the graveyard. I mean, you have to do it, you have to do it in the same phase that he's killed, so you have to have the domain free, but it's still a very, very handy effect. But that's not all he can do. If you turn him over, you'll see that there's 2 little icons here, and this is called Transient, okay? And that means that you can actually place him in your domain, and he's worth 2, so he's really good at acceleration. So what I mean by acceleration is that when you resource him as a domain, you resource him and he's worth 2 points in the domain. But part of the effect of Transient Resources is that you need to discard the card when you're finished with it. And that's a big downside. But of course, as we were just talking about, he has an ability that allows you to pay a resource and then bounce it back into your hand, which is a way for you to keep those Transient Resources alive, allowing you to really punch out power cards early. Now, obviously that's very expensive. You don't want to use it too much, but if you need to get something out, then, and I'll show you an example of that actually. So basically what this means is you can get a good way to use him, for example. Okay, so here's an example of how your domains might look at the start of turn 2, okay? We haven't actually done any resourcing yet, but we draw, or we have in our hand, visiting author, Anthropology Advisor, and one of our 3 cost investigators, which we have a whole ton of. Okay, this is probably the best one to get out really early. But what we can do really, really simply is we can play this as a transient resource. Let's play it on here. Okay, so we play that as a transient resource. This is now 3 domain, a 3 high domain, which we can use to play Anthropology Advisor. Okay, so we've drained that, Anthropology Advisor comes out. Now Anthropology Advisor, right, gives us -1 to our investigation characters. So then we can play a 3 cost for only 2. So we drain this, right, and out comes a 3 cost on turn 2. So we have 2 3 cost characters out on turn 2. Awesome already. And then we can even, if we want, use the last domain to bounce the transient back into our hand to use later or play onto the table, because he's now a 2 cost to cast because he is an investigator himself. And remember, as always, this guy, the investigator we put down, now has a investigation icon. So we end up with 2 guys on the table, 2 3 cost guys on the table turn 2, plus our acceleration still in our hand, plus a permanent acceleration on the table, plus we've got 3 in this case investigation icons, a terror icon. I mean, it's a pretty awesome turn to play right there, and that's the power of transients. Okay, so and now we're going to go to our first, well, our only neutral card, and this is Prepared Alienist. So notice he is also a scientist. Remember, this is going to become important, scientists, in a sec. We have a 2 cost, 2 skill, an arcane, and an investigation icon. Now, That's all very well and good. Awesome. Investigation icons, arcane icons, woohoo, we're all happy. But check out his ability. For starters, he's got toughness +1, which means he can take a wound without worrying about it too much, which means he's hard to get rid of. And the reason he's got that ability is because he has another function. A function that would normally in this deck be taken up with Flux Stabilizer, but in this case, because we're limiting our card pool, we're going to use Prepared Alienist, who is not like a worse choice. He's just as good. He's got some, I mean, the Flux Stabilizer has some pros and cons, and this guy's got pros and cons, but they do a very similar job in your deck, and that is, while Prepared Alienist is ready, characters cannot change control or be put into play through triggered effects. So, what does this actually mean? It means he's kind of like a support card, okay? Because he's got an arcane, and he's got a little icon of an investigation, you're going to be very tempted to tap him and go into stories. Don't. Not unless you've played the guy's deck a little bit and you know that he's not going to do a lot of interplay effects. This stops Mind Control. This stops Master of Mist. This stops Black Dog. This stops Shub-Niggurath. This stops Ouroboros. I mean, this stops so many crazy, annoying things because people can only put characters into play when they're actually in their normal phase and paying for it. You can't just go, well, I'll cast an event and just put this great big monster from my hand onto the table and at the end of the phase it bounces in my hand. All that's gone. And that's not all. It also stops Mind Control. Cards can't change control, you know? Very, very, very strong card. Well, characters cannot change control. So it doesn't actually stop you stealing their non-location support card. So just remember with the Alienist to try and resist the temptation to send him into the stories. I mean, again, it won't take you long of playing their deck to realize if they're going to have these popping in and out effects because they'll probably do them before you get this guy on the table. Still, very, very cool card. Oh, and also, he's not unique or anything. So even though you only need to have one untapped, so if you get more than one down, you can send the other guy in quite comfortably. Okay, so that's it for Miskatonic. Let's check out the Yog, the great purple cards. And we're going to start with, oh so awesome, the scientist Nikola Tesla. Now, this card is a bit of a bomb. He's quite powerful. He costs 2 for starters for 4 skill. Okay, that's already pretty bonkers right there. Then he's got 2 arcanes for untapping. So, awesome card. Nothing wrong with that. Just as a body, he's a good card. Now check out this ability. It is bonkers. Force Response. After you trigger an effect from your discard pile, put a success token on Nikola Tesla. So what this means is, when you trigger effect in this Key to the Gate expansion, right? They added these effects that are actually only playable from your discard pile. So while something's in your discard pile, you can still cast a spell off it as if it's in your hand. Okay? A lot of fans of the games are in mixed opinions about this, but it's not as bad as you might think, and it's integral to the Nikola Tesla play. Because every time you do that, every time you trigger effect in your discard pile, boom, on goes a token. And then check out this last one, Disrupt. When Nikola Tesla would be destroyed, move all success tokens on him to any number of revealed story cards. Okay, so what is that? That means if I had, say, like, to win a story you need 5 success tokens, right? So if I've been playing for a while, I have 2 success tokens on this one, 2 on that one, 3 on another, okay? So what that actually means is I only need 8 success tokens to win the game. If I've got 4 on this guy, I could probably win in a single attack, you know? Place a few tokens, kill the guy, and place all his tokens anywhere I want. Very strong card, can lead to complete instant wins, you know? And what's also really cool is you sometimes get to this point where he's loaded up with tokens and you just leave him untapped. Remember, he's actually got a good chance of untapping every turn because he's got all the arcane. But you just leave him untapped and you go, I'm just going to block with this guy. And they get scared out of their mind because they know that if they attack and they kill him, which is very likely, he doesn't have toughness or anything, then those tokens are going to pop and they could lose the game. So he can, by himself, stall entire armies. Very, very cool. and annoying as hell to the other player, I might add, but it's still a cool effect. And obviously his weakness is that, you know, if you kill him before you have the tokens on. And of course, as we've already talked about, we have all the way back here, we have our Alternative Historian to remove combat struggles by discarding cards, and we've got Chapman to save people's lives if they're destroyed or sent insane. I think he also does, doesn't he? Sacrifice, beg pardon. So yeah, if he's going to be destroyed or sacrificed, Chapman also can protect him. So we can keep this guy alive quite easily to allow him to build up with his tokens. And then we have one of my favorites, Quantum Theorist, because Quantum Theorist, I just love the whole idea of this guy. He's writing mathematics on the board, and it's just destroying subspace around him, you know. He just wrote the wrong equation, dude, I'm telling you. Anyway, so it's a 2-cost, 3-skill arcane. Beautiful card. Just by itself, it's good. Now, it's got quite a funny little effect here. Yog resources count as a resource match for scientist cards in your hand. So what this means is that if this guy's on the table, Yog resources count as other kinds of resources, which doesn't really affect this deck, okay? It's not really going to matter, so yeah, whatever. But the next part is actually kind of cool. If you control a non-Yog scientist, Quantum Theorist gains another investigation icon. And remember, we've got, I mean, this guy's a scientist here, this guy's a scientist, so he's an out-of-faction scientist, investigators, I think we've got more scientists in here. She's a scientist, he's a scientist. So any of those cards on the table, and he gets another investigation icon. And that's very, very cool. But that's not even the cool bit. The cool bit is he also gets fast, which means if there's any draws, we win because we have fast. So that is so good. You know, I mean, this game is all about intense calculation of the struggles. And often it really comes down to who has fast, because it's hard to get an edge, especially when you've got Alternative Historian, you know, discarding for cards and fixing the struggles so only the ones that you win ever get resolved. But now you've got fast, it's so much easier to win your struggles. It makes a huge difference. Huge. Huge. How many times can I say huge and make it enough? You know, there's not. It's that huge. Okay, and now we have Scholar from Yith. Now this is one of the Yithians. Now note, 1, he is an investigator, okay? So, because he's an investigator, we've got acceleration, mana acceleration as I call it, even though there's no mana in this game. You know, I played Magic the Gathering for like 20 years. I just can't get the terminology out of my head. Anthropology Advisor, mana acceleration. He costs 1 less, and he gets the investigation icon. How awesome is that? So, he might be a 3-cost. Well, actually, he's probably a 2-cost. Okay? Wow. Awesome. And he's got a investigation icon. So he's a 2-cost, 4-icon, 3-skill. Bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. Then he's got all these abilities on him. Check it out. Action. Pay 1, so you just pay a 1-cost domain, to choose a Scholar of Yith's arcane icon and change it to a investigation icon. If you do that 2 times, you'd have 3 investigation icons if you had the buff from the advisor. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that might come in handy. I mean, you might not need that icon, you might not need that resource. Boom, you get another, you know, because investigation icons are really good. It's one of the ways to really get speed, especially on the more sort of obviously powerful monster decks, because they don't have investigation icons. But still, I mean, he's already getting a free icon from the advisor, so you might not want to do this. But check out his second ability. Action. Pay to choose a character until the end of phase. Treat that character as if its printed text box were blank. Mind blown. Okay, now it's obviously not as good as, you know, some of the more powerful cards that are attachment support cards, you know, like Frozen Time or whatever, where you can like blank a text box permanently. This only blanks a text box for the phase, and it does cost 2 resources, so it's a bit of planning there. But the point is, you have the option. So if they drop down some big kahuna that has some amazing text box ability that you just can't deal with, this card will deal with it. This card will allow you to just blank it for the period of time that the story phase starts. So when the story phase starts, that's when you blank them, and then you can run your stories without interference from that card's text value. It doesn't blank the icons, just this text here. But what's interesting is you have to play it from the graveyard, so it's always in play. As soon as this guy goes into the graveyard, you can always play it. And oh yeah, you're playing an effect from the graveyard, so that can trigger an icon onto Tesla, okay? So it's curling back around onto Tesla again now. Also, here's a 3 cost. I mean, you can get him out for 2, but if you really need that effect fast, you can use him to be discarded. So you can discard through Alternative Historian, or you can discard through Chapman, and just put this guy into your graveyard at will at any point. Pretty much as soon as you get Alternative Historian out, you can just chuck him into the graveyard and have this active straight away. Extremely strong. Extremely, extremely strong. Now, we have another Yithian. This one is a scientist. So, check him out. Response. After you play a Yithian card, choose an opponent, reveal the top 3 cards of that player's deck, and put any number of those cards on the bottom of the deck. Okay, so this is a very, very common effect. You see it in tons of games. It's always good. You look at their card, you know what's coming. You can either choose to leave them there and have a complete understanding of what they're going to do in the future turns. That's a very strong play if it's sort of late game and they've got hardly any cards in their hand. Okay, so it basically means you know what they're going to be able to do in the next turn. But more often than not, you're going to be sending stuff to the bottom of their thing. You know, you'll see something scary and go, well, I don't want to deal with that at all. Send it to the bottom. So either way, it's very, very good. Now, what is really cool about both the Yithians is that they have terror icons, which you might have noticed have been lacking in all the human stuff, right? So these guys give some much needed boost to our icon defense through terror. And this one is a 2/2/2. Very, very cool card. Nice little Yithian. Good old scientist again. Now we're going to get to some of the support cards. And the rest of this deck is mainly made up of tricks and sneaky stuff. Starting with Ipecac or Ipiutak or Ipaitak. Who knows how to pronounce Lovecraftian names? Not me. Because I actually say Cthulhu, right? But in the Lovecraft Call of Cthulhu short story, he actually describes it as sounding a bit like someone sneezing. So I think technically the more correct way to say is Cthulhu, as some people call it. But I way prefer Cthulhu, so it's Cthulhu to me. Point is, I can't pronounce these names, so I don't try. Now this is a Lost Civilization, which is one of the newer kind of support cards, and it's pretty cool. But check out this response. It's kind of bonkers. After a character you control was chosen as the only target of a triggered effect, exhaust Ipitaku, which is this card, to copy that effect, choosing another character as the target of that effect. Okay, so some things to note. This does not stop the original opponent's effect from actually happening. All it does is it just reflects a copy of that effect back onto his side of the table. Okay, still hugely powerful. He tries to sacrifice your character. Oh wait, sacrifice one of your own characters. You try and direct damage me, I'll direct damage you. Blah, 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 blah. Just goes on and on and on. And I mean, it's really, 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 really powerful. So remember, of course, that we have good old Chapman over here, where is he, who can stop sacrifice effects, can stop destroy effects. So they can target and go, I'm going to destroy your character. We go, actually no, we discard one to stop that effect from occurring, but we also tap this guy and fire it straight back at them. So not only do we get to mirror it back at them, we get to actually, cancel it. So we don't even have to sacrifice our guy. Chadman, ultra powerful. Power. So yeah, this card allows us to mirror effects back to the other side of the table, and also with Chapman, we can actually avoid the effect as well. So it's like basically not only is it a mirror, it's actually a block. Very strong card. Okay, and next we have some funky do, and this is an attachment ritual. Okay, now this attaches to a story card. Attached to a story card, characters committed to the story lose all terror icons. Really, really cool. This is going to protect our very fragile-minded human scientists and scholars from having their brains explode in terror when they go to the stories and fight off against the horrific terror-inducing monsters that you get in Cthulhu. So basically, this little Cthulhu-y kind of squiggly symbol that you might recognize from Elder Sign and lots of other FFG games, this one up the top here, means terror. Now if you lose a terror struggle, a card is sent insane, a character is sent insane. You can only go insane if you have terror icons, okay? So this card just protects you from insanity. It just makes it that much harder to send our guys insane. We don't have to worry about stacking our deck full of cards that are immune to insanity. Instead, we make the other player's deck not able to function as an insanity deck. Very, very cool. And that's the way I like to do it. I like to make the other guy's deck not function. Making the other guy's deck not function is more appealing to me as a deck builder than making my deck function really well. I mean, obviously I want my deck to function really well, don't get me wrong, but it's better for my deck to function well and their deck not to function at all versus my deck functioning well and their deck functioning well. And that is what this card does. This card stops their deck from functioning, but makes our deck function. Beautiful card. Love it. Love it. And now we have Station Esmiti, or whatever. Now this is a polar location, and Explorer and Scientist characters you control are immune to triggered character ability. Bang! We've got so many scientists. I mean, I've already shown them to you. You've seen them before. You've probably been wondering, oh, we've seen a lot of investigators, but scientists. Oh man, there's another scientist over here. Where is he? Scientist. This guy's a scientist. We can protect him. He can protect himself with this card. What it means is that if I have a card where it says pay 1 to drop my skill, pay 1 to wound, pay 1 to do this, pay 1 to unconnect from a story, pay 1, attack, target, no, you can't do any of that. I'm sorry, your deck's not going to be able to function at all doing that. You can't do it, get out of town, I'm just going to win this story instead. Very, very strong, keeps my guys alive, keeps your guys alive if you're playing the deck. Love it. Love it. And now we have another one. This is Yis, I guess. Swallowed by the Sea. It's a lost civilization and it has a disrupt effect. When an opponent card would cause a character you control to leave play, instead exhaust Yis and resolve that effect on another character you control. So, what this means is we now have an extra layer of protection. Okay? So, let's just have a look at it, shall we? We've got besides the station, which I just talked about, which only works on explorers and scientists, this card will work on any character in the deck. Besides the terror protection, besides the reflecting spell stuff, okay, we have right down at the bottom, the start of the deck, we have Alternative Historian and we have Chapman. Both cards that we kind of want to get on the table and keep on the table. We also have Nikola Tesla, who when we get full of icons, we don't want him to lose those icons. So if Chadman's not around to cancel those effects, if Chadman's not around to cancel those sacrifice and destroy effects, if Historian isn't around for us to cancel those combat struggles, we can still use this card to tap and save the life of the card we want to keep and just kill some chump that we don't care about. Beautiful, and that's going to make all your guys so much more resilient. And now we're at the base of the deck, and this is just the events. So we'll go through them quickly. This is a core one. Now, this is a really fantastic card, and I've kind of fallen out of favor for some reason, but I love it. It's only one cost. It's a spell, and action, I'll put this down here. Action, choose a character unit. The end of phase, that character loses all of its printed icons. What more do you want? I mean, seriously, that is powerful. So, like I said before, this game is a lot about calculation. You know, you look at their board, you look at your board, you try and imagine what they're going to do, and then you add up all your icons and you go, okay, it's safe for me to commit. I'm going to win these struggles. I'm not going to go insane. I'm not going to be killed. I will win this story, yes. Oh wait, bang, binding on your big mofo with like 3 skulls and, you know, a whole bunch of terror icons and oh, he's so scary, but bam, no, those icons are gone, right? He can no longer function. You suddenly go from losing a skull struggle by 3 to winning by 3 because all his icons are gone. Extremely powerful. Oh man, and on top of that, once you've blanked his icons, during the same action phase, because this action window is open then, you can like trigger your Yithian from your graveyard, pay 2, and then bam, blank his icons, blank his text area, which means he loses invulnerability. He loses all that stuff, and suddenly you can kill him. You know, like no matter what it is. We're talking like the biggest, baddest old one in the deck. You can kill with 2 domains with this deck at the moment. There's other ways to deal with them, which we'll talk about in a sec. But that is one nice little trick that you can use with blanking icons, because blanking icons is about ensuring that you're going to win the struggles. So you're assuring that you're going to win combat, right? And then you can use the Yithian in your graveyard to blank invulnerability, for example, or blank willpower, for example, and get things to go insane, get things killed that you normally have no possible way of doing. Now there is a drawback to this card, and that is it only works on printed icons. So remember, for example, when we had all those investigators getting the +1 investigation icon, okay, those guys would retain those +1 investigation icons because they're not physically printed on the card. It only affects the printed icons, right? But seriously, that's just a really cool card, and a card that you can just play. You know, they commit, you commit, they're like, hey, I got you, and you go, boom. Actually, no you don't. Get out of town. Okay, now we have Prophecies, which is another really cool card and good for people to get a hand on. It has a steadfast icon. It costs 0. Now the way Prophecies work is that you play the prophecy on your draw deck, okay? Oh my god, I'm about to run out of batteries. Okay, I'm back, and I've plugged it in. What was I saying? Prophecy, yeah. So you place it on your draw deck, right? And then if the prophecy is fulfilled, it's then discarded. Otherwise, you have to draw it into your hand. So in a way, if you can't get the prophecy to trigger, you are in fact reducing your draw, which can be really bad. But at the same time, most of these prophecy effects are quite easy to trigger, and in this deck, it's no different. And what this means is, check it out. Action. Response. After you win an arcane struggle, discard the prophecy from the top of your deck, choose one character, give that character 2 wounds. So what we have here is 3 direct damage. What we have here is some direct damage spells. Okay, we are able to destroy other characters with these prophecies. Characters we might not be able to normally because we're fairly low on combat, right? But what is really cool about the prophecy is that we can target our own cards if we want to, and that means Tesla. Okay, so Tesla is loaded up with a whole bunch of cool stuff. He's got a whole bunch of icons on him. My other player, my partner, is going, well, you know, I'm not going to kill Tesla. He's useless to you. Actually, I'll just kill him with the prophecy, trigger his effect, all his icons go over to there. Oh wait, I'm not stopping there. Because I'm cruel, and this is Call of Cthulhu, which is a pretty cruel game, we are also going to tap old Ipetak, copy the 2 wound effect, and put it on another one of your characters. So we get to kill Tesla, place our icons, kill another one of your characters, even if he's got 1 toughness. Wow, I mean that is powerful. Really, 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 really cool. Very, very cool. And this is basically a win condition. This and Tesla will allow you to win the games early. Very, very strong. And all you need to do to trigger this prophecy is win an arcane struggle. Arcane are the little book symbols. You know, book. Book, books, double books. Book, 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 double book. Book, book. You know, book, 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 book. Just a lot of arcane. I mean, we really shouldn't be losing too many arcane struggles. Especially when things like Master of the Myths that can pop into existence with 3 arcane icons can't happen because we've got Alienist on the table stopping interplay effects. And of course, the prophecy also links up with the Yithian in our graveyard, just like the Binding does. You know, they put out Cthulhu. Pretty scary card. They go, woohoo, he's invulnerable. You know, he's got terror icons. He's got combat icons. You know, what are you going to do against these with your pussy little, you know, humans? Well, actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to blank your guy with my Yithian in the graveyard. Then I'm going to go over here, play my prophecy, win an arcane struggle. I'm going to use a discard with my, you know, historian to make sure no one dies or whatever. And boom, Win the Arcane, Prophecy pops, Cthulhu has been blanked, so he's no longer invincible, double wound, gone. Completely dealt with, all in one smooth play. Awesome. Wow, that is bonkers. And now we have another beautiful card that I absolutely love, Studying the Void. Okay, now there's a lot of talk about the playing from your graveyard, okay? And how to trigger Tesla so Tesla gets all his icons, okay? A lot of people wonder what's the best way. A lot of people load up their deck with all these weird cards that can play from the graveyard, which can be detrimental because then you've got to remember them all, and it can be, you know, people can forget things, and it can be quite hard to keep track of. But really, you only need one card to trigger Tesla. That is Studying the Void. This is all you need. Check out this card. It's got a pretty alright action. Discard the top card of each player's deck. Meh. That's not so much a cool effect as an actual cost of the card. Okay, it does something to him, but it costs us a card. Who cares? What we're really looking at is the response. After you win an arcane struggle, reveal the top X cards of your deck. X is the amount by which you won an arcane struggle. Discard any number of those cards and arrange the rest on top of your deck in any order. This effect can only be triggered from the discard pile. Okay, so 1. He's got 2 Steadfast, so you need to have 2 Yogs in your resources sum. Costs us nothing to play. Boom, straight into the graveyard. Bang. Then all you got to do is win arcane struggles. Okay, and you can win like 3 struggles in a single turn if you win at all 3 stories. Now there are ways in some decks to add extra arcane struggles, but we didn't put any in this deck. But still, you can trigger this guy 3 times in one turn without too much effort, especially in the early game if you can get it in the early game. Okay, I mean, Nikola Tesla, he only costs 2, you know. I mean, I probably wouldn't want to put him down until I had Chadwell out, or at least until I had one of my, you know, things like Yis or something, just to keep him safe. But the point is, you can get him out very early, you can get this guy out very early and start winning those arcane struggles. So let's have a look exactly what we do. We've got all these cards. Okay, so if I went to a story with these 3 cards, okay, I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 arcane. Okay, say I went with more, I could also go with you know, a couple of these guys, whatever. So say we went with 7 arcane. The other guy, he has a paltry 2 arcane. Okay, so we come out with 5 arcane. Okay, we win by 5 arcane. That means we then get to look in our deck, right? We get to look in our deck and draw the top 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Have a peek at them, see which ones are good and which ones are bad, right? And then, as it says right on the card here, we can discard any number of those cards and arrange the rest in any order. So we don't have to discard cards if we don't want to. We might want to. Might want to get some effects in the graveyard. But you know what it also means? It also means that we can arrange the order of our deck so the best cards come quicker. Ridiculously powerful. Oh yeah, and did I forget to mention, every single time you win an arcane, you get an icon on Tesla. I mean, this card is literally all you need to power Tesla. And yeah, he's a very, very strong card. So, I mean, awesome. Absolutely awesome. And finally, we have 3 copies of Vortex of Time. Now, what Vortex of Time does is it's got a very simple action. Draw 2 cards. You might have noticed there's a lot of discard mechanics, you know, discarding for discarding for Historian, discarding for Chadman. You know, lots of discarding. This refills our hand, gets it all into it, you know, so we've got stuff to discard. And then it's got a response afterwards. After a player drains a domain, reveal the top card of that player's deck. You may place that card on the bottom of the deck, limit once per turn. This effect can only be triggered from the graveyard. So once we draw our 2 cards, every time they draw, well, not every time, once a turn when they draw their games, when they pay for their resources, so that's in my turn and in their turn, we get to discard a card off their, well, you know, put a card we don't like on the bottom of their deck. But even more than that, it means we can put more icons on Tesla. Just incredibly, I mean, Tesla, if you can keep Tesla alive, and you probably can because we've got all that protection, then just kill him, boom, just win the game. Awesome. Extremely, extremely powerful card. And it just basically means that we're guaranteed to get an icon on Tesla every turn, probably 2 a turn, not including winning arcane struggles. Strong, very strong. And that is pretty much the deck. Now, the last thing you might have noticed while I was doing this, you might have gone, well, that deck looks pretty interesting, but wow, you have a lot of discarding going on. I mean, you've got the 2 card draw, but, you know, do I really want to be discarding all the time? Well, to make these choices easier for the beginning player, as well as resourcing choices a little bit easier for the beginning player, we've actually put a lot of unique cards in here. Now, unique is marked by this little symbol here, this little dot next to the title. Okay, so this guy's unique. This guy's unique. You know, we have a lot of unique stuff, not just characters. Lucas Tedlow I just told you about. Nikola Tesla's unique. We probably don't want to discard him. You might need him back up. Ipetak's unique. Station's unique. Yis is unique. You know, so there's quite a few unique cards, and that's going to make your discarding choices a little simpler, as well as your resourcing choices. It means that you don't have to worry about, oh, this is a good card, I don't want to get rid of it. Oh wait, we've already played it, it's unique, it's dead in your hand, resource that sucker, discard that sucker, just go for it. So that's it. This is the deck. Made by ArkhamInmate and myself. It uses just the Yog expansion, right? Just the Yog expansion. It uses just the Seekers of Knowledge expansion. And it just uses 2 copies, oh wait, smash the camera. 2 copies of the base game. And that's it. That's all you need to put this together. And it's a pretty strong deck. And what's more, it's fun and cheap. And it has a good chance of winning, even against much older decks. Give it a go. Let me know what you think. The description will have the deck list, as well as some, you know, jump points where you can jump around the video. And I will see you guys next time. Okay, so also, as a amendment, some of you might have been wondering what happened to Chaos in the Old World on my channel. I did this intro, I put a lot of effort into doing the introduction and getting everyone excited, and then no videos actually turned up. Well, actually a video turned up, but was deleted very quickly. What happens is, the way I usually do my Let's Plays is that I record a bunch of stuff, I then edit it together, and then I upload it, and then I wait for a day for comments, and I incorporate the people's comments into my next game, right? This allows people to have a bit of interaction with the game, and I think that's pretty cool. It's fun for me as well. But because I was very, very pressed for time, as in like I had a huge game weekend that Saturday, I played a huge chunk of the game in one go. Copied it to all my hard drive and edited a video and uploaded it. And when I edited it and uploaded it, it was late. And I just deleted the directory like I normally do because I'm done with it. But in this case, the directory didn't have a single short session. It had the whole recording of almost the entire game. So it was lost, and it was the files were too big for the recycle bin. It was a disaster, and I tried getting this weird software off Softpedia to recover from recover lost files with one click, and it just was a disaster. And yeah, so the files were all lost. So I deleted the original video, and don't worry, I'm still going to do Chaos the Old World. It's coming. It's just going to be a little bit late. And one of the reasons it's going to be late is because even though I'm really keen to do it, I've got another gaming weekend on Thursday. So, and then another one on Saturday, which means I won't be able to start until next Monday. So it's still going to be a while, but Chaos the Old World is coming. That's why I did this one, just to give you something in between, and also because, Call of Cthulhu, as if I don't want to do a video on Call of Cthulhu. So yeah, that's why, and yeah, have fun, and I'll see you next time.